Excuse me, when do you think this could happen, Professor? When?
I don't know. Maybe in 100 years, maybe in 1,000. But what I...
You heard him, folks. This global warming thing can kick in anytime. 1,000 years from now, 100 years from now, or even the day after tomorrow. A mere 2 days after Mr. Quaid's stirring address to the nations regarding long-term climate change, the laws of thermodynamics go on vacation. So much so that the day after tomorrow has found itself on more than one list of most scientifically inaccurate movies of all time. And still, the movie goes on and on about the science. The science, the science, the science. This is done so that the viewer associates global warming and all the other bogusness with the science. The movie leads the viewer to assume that scientists unanimously support global warming. Next we have writer and producer Terry Rossio and writer Ted Elliott. These two have worked as a pair on many hit movies. Some of the movies this pair has collaborated on are Aladdin, The Road to El Dorado, The Mask of Zorro, Shrek, National Treasure, The Book of Secrets, and all of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They even worked together with Roland Emmerich on his film Godzilla. Didn't help much. This pair's man-who-would-be-king retelling is The Road to El Dorado. The Road to El Dorado is about two Spaniards named Michael and Tulio. At the beginning of the movie, they come to own a map to El Dorado, the lost city of gold. They end up as castaways, still in possession of the map. They hatch a plan to loot El Dorado of its gold, so they follow the map and eventually find El Dorado. Upon arrival, they are mistaken for gods, and just like the man who would be king, their arrival had been prophesied. A false miracle, the apparent halting of a volcano, seals the deal. They become the immediate rulers of El Dorado. Later, however, Michael is seen bleeding, and it becomes apparent to the high priest that he is only a man and not a god. By the end, the two had separate plans. One intended on remaining with the primitive people as ruler, while the other, Tulio, intended on going home with his half of the gold. But before Tulio leaves, an old enemy catches up with them. During the panic of escape, the pair watch all their treasure wasted. The Road to El Dorado, even more than Stargate, has scenes that appear to deliberately draw from the man who would be king. Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio also wrote the stories for the Pirates of the Caribbean. In Part 2, Dead Man's Chest, Jack Sparrow, the central character of the movie series, has arrived by boat to a primitive island where he has been mistaken for a god. The natives decide to paint eyes on his face, symbolizing his divinity. Just another retelling, it appears. Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio also wrote National Treasure 2, The Book of Secrets. The first National Treasure movie is loaded with blatant Illuminati symbolism, but the second National Treasure movie is more subtle. And similar to Elliott's and Rossio's The Road to El Dorado, once again, the whole movie revolves around the location and plundering of the lost city of gold. The movie depicts the city of gold almost exactly as it was depicted in The Road to El Dorado. Next, we have George Lucas, creator of the Star Wars saga. Star Wars, most notably Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, appears to be yet another retelling of The Man Who Would Be King. Han Solo from Star Wars and Danny from The Man Who Would Be King have tons in common. Both smugglers, have a brainy best friend, and many more. Even Darth Vader, who is probably film history's most infamous villain, appears to be based on Jesus Christ. But that's not the end of his storytelling. Apparently, Lucas's Jedi isn't Lucas's at all. The Jedi, or the Jedi, were a secretive group of magicians in ancient Egypt. What set of the Jedi, or the Jedi priest, apart from other magicians, is that their bodies have been transformed. The uraeus, the serpent-adorned headpiece that was often seen on Egyptian pharaohs and gods, was a symbol of those who had undergone this ritual and became Jedi. The serpent was placed over the forehead because the forehead was the location of the third eye. The serpent was used because it symbolized those who had their kundalini, or inner serpent, raised from the base of their spine up through the chakras and placed into the foreheads. Dijed means spinal column. Initiation to the Jedi Order was physically demanding and, like Luke Skywalker discovered, often involved exercises and other routines that had nothing to do with spiritual growth. But if a Jedi student showed promise and perseverance, he was initiated into the Order of the Jedi. In this rite, the initiate would be led blindfold into the very center of the Pyramid of Giza, where they would lay into a sarcophagus, which is like a giant coffin. From there, while clinically dead, certain incantations are said over the coffin. 3 days later, the person would be reborn as a Jedi, with abilities that we would associate with powerful magicians. They experience the world through the eyes and abilities of a spirit, yet still have flesh. They can create objects at will, move objects from afar, move at incredible speeds, have extrasensory perception, telepathy, the ability to see spirits, and also complete control of their astral bodies, allowing them to tear their soul away from its fleshly encasing and send their astral bodies to distant places in the universe. Today, this ritual of the body transformation is reenacted by the Masons and Skull and Bones. In fact, you've seen it before. When someone is initiated into the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, they are blindfolded and lowered into a pyramid. After the initiate has taken the oath, his mask is removed and he quote-unquote receives the light. But this is not just a figurative light of knowledge, but reborn in literal light. The film From Hell, starring Johnny Depp, is about an investigator who smokes opium to receive visions of the future and past. Against him is a series of murders perpetrated and concealed by the Freemasons, who occupy all the significant seats of power in 19th century London. The movie depicts a reenactment of this most secretive ritual.
Let the brother receive the light.
At Yale University's Skull and Bones, initiates are placed into a coffin where they reveal their deepest secrets and are afterwards told that they are reborn as bonesmen. They are also told that they are now superior to Earth's human population and use war and suffering to control the planet. Many terms that I believe are really just alternative names of this transformation and its recipients are the reborn, the black flame, those who have risen, the resurrected, assuming God form, self-deification, the black pilgrimage, the oath, those who have risen, the resurrected, assuming God form, self-deification, the black pilgrimage, the oath, the dragon body, the initiated, the vampire, the warlock, the witch, the druid, and of course, the Jedi. This conversion usually happens within large structures like pyramids and on ley lines. The book, The Fingerprints of the Gods, not only speaks of a more ancient Egypt, but how the pyramids were used to turn men into gods. The Masons and the Illuminati have long used the phoenix in their symbolism. This is because the phoenix is a symbol of death and rebirth. In 1993's Warlock, the Armageddon, this ritual is blatantly revealed as the main character, Kenny Travis, is deliberately killed by his father so that he may be brought back to life, possessing magical powers.
2 days ago, my dad shot me. Dead. And then he brought me back to life, so now I'm like this walking zombie.
Like the phoenix rising from the ashes, the warrior rises from his own death.
Then, his girlfriend and daughter of the town preacher insist on undergoing the same ritual so that she may fight at his side with similar abilities.
I do. I have to be reborn.
There's only one way.
I know. Daddy, you have to help me.
One book that mentions the Jedi and the many names they've had throughout the centuries is called The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom. The book's main focus is the reverence for serpents that exists in each human culture and how the gods have always been associated with the serpent. Mankind's relationship with the reptile is indeed a strange one. Humans have a natural aversion to reptiles, and yet humans have, since ancient times, venerated the serpent and associated it with wisdom, godly powers, and the gods themselves. Even Jesus said to be as wise as serpent, while every other reference of the serpent in the Bible was unanimously negative. The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom is pretty new agey, so be careful, but the book's cover is quite revealing. You have a body made of fire, receiving energy from two all-seeing eyes inside of pyramids, hovering above with the help of what appears to be the wings of the phoenix. Inside of the transformed man, the caduceus, or twin serpents. A picture truly is worth 1,000 words. But here's another picture that's worth 1,000 words. It's a card from Steve Jackson's card game, Illuminati, the game of conspiracy. The card's name is Unmasked, and the caption below reads, "There is a secret of our cabal that even you of the 12th circle have not known until now." Now, to understand the magnitude of this card, you need a bit of context. Take a look at some of the other cards in Steve Jackson's game. This card game, whose final goal is world domination, was created by an admitted magician named Steve Jackson. In 1990, Steve Jackson's company was raided by the Secret Service, and 3 years later, he would create a website hosting company called Illuminati Online. In 1995, the card game was released, and later in 1999, George Bush's presidential campaign website was hosted by Steve Jackson's Illuminati Online. The game has hundreds of cards like this, and now that you have a taste of what those other cards must look like, ask yourself why Steve Jackson has a card for every person, method, technology, and organization the Illuminati have ever used, letting it all hang out with pyramids, all-seeing eyes, and 666 everywhere. And yet this card means seemingly nothing, and yet claims to show one of their cabal's most deepest secrets. That's because it does, my friends. So much so that even in Steve Jackson's shameless card game, he remains vague, so that only those who should know the card's meaning do know the card's meaning.